Who Dares Rolls podcast. I'm here with David Tutsi.
Hello.
That's close enough. Days of Ire, which is on Kickstarter right now. So we're having a look at this. This is obviously pre-production. This isn't finished components, but it's damned good for pre-production.
Thank you.
So anything you see here, it's not finished. David,
But the art is pretty close to finish, so
pretty
it's
damn
going to look
good.
like this.
So first of all, give me the pitch. What made me sit down last night with you and play this beautiful game?
Well, I opened with its historical game about Hungarian Revolution 60 years ago. You looked somewhat interested at the cover,
I was like, yeah.
and then you were starting to drift away, and then I said, it's actually Twilight Struggle versus Pandemic.
Bang! Twilight Struggle, Pandemic, had a baby, and this is it. This is fantastic. Just so you mentioned the box.
Yes.
The artwork's fantastic on the front, and what I didn't know until you said last night, it's by the same artist who did
The new edition of Catacombs.
New Catacombs.
Swanshine Moria is
Yeah.
a wonderful guy to work with, and obviously did a very eye-catching
Yeah,
cover. He also did the Soviet propaganda art, which I'll show a few cards to you,
Yeah.
which have in-game very nefarious uses, but has a lot of idealized propaganda art. All the others, the revolutionary cards, are done by one of the designers actually, Kate Nimefro,
Cool.
one of our own. So we're very proud of the art,
Yeah.
and we're even prouder of the gameplay.
No. Obviously, I was lucky to sit down with you last night. You took me for, we had a game of this. And considering, we've mentioned Twilight Struggle, it's a pretty heavy game, and that's a long play. But we played a game of this in an hour and a half. So it's a semi-co-op.
It's a one versus many.
one versus
we
many.
don't call it
No,
semi-co-op
it's not
because we think of tankable Euro games if we say semi-co-op.
Okay, so anyone there, just quickly, for Budapest 1956 may not mean much to some people.
Yes. 60 years ago, the Eastern Bloc, the communist countries, is already established. Stalin has died 3 years ago, and various Eastern countries are now holding protests asking for better food, better work conditions, that sort of thing. And the communist leadership routinely puts them down.
Yeah.
And it all boils over in Budapest in October 23rd, when a bunch of angry students from the university go to the street chanting, "We want better food at the canteen," and they're joined by poets and the Writers' Union, who say that this is all because you put down the other protest in Poland. And then they go over to the parliament and demand some change,
Yep.
and the government responds by opening fire on them. Which is never a good idea. This sparks a violent uprising. They raid a couple of armories and start shooting back. They start building Molotov cocktails, and they start frying the Soviet tanks patrolling the streets.
Yeah. And again, so this kind of condenses and it tells that story of that uprising and everything, and you can play out historically in how it ran, or you've got the opportunity to change the fates.
At this point, anybody who knows the history usually asks me, and how can the Hungarians win? Well, the thing is that in history, the Hungarians won. They put enough pressure on the government that first the government changed to a more people-friendly one, and then the new government negotiated a ceasefire with the Russians, and that ceasefire held for 4 days. And after 4 days, the Red Army came back and crushed the whole country in 6.5 hours, but that's not part of the game.
No.
The game is the first 7 days when the students, as we like to call it, the boys and girls of Budapest, ran around putting pressure on the state, asking for the change. So the game ends in 7 days at the ceasefire if the revolution lives long enough.
Yeah.
So actually the historical ending is that the Hungarians won.
Yes.
So it's up to the Soviets to change
history
and put them down faster.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, we played this. It's fantastic. It's got that.
Thank you.
It's got that Twilight Struggle card play of the events, which follow the timeline. But the Russian player, who I was last time, you have the choice of obviously playing what of those events or buying what of those events they want, which then affects the overall strategy.
Well, we've been saying it's just like Twilight Struggle. I think at this point we maybe should tell them how it works.
Yes.
The way it works is that the Soviet player have a bunch of cards in his hand called the headline cards. which all have historical photos, and the titles are all real events that happened. And they are either red or green. Now, Soviet-friendly or Hungarian-friendly headlines. Now, if anyone has played Twilight Struggle at this point can figure out what those colors do. The Soviet player can choose to play a red card either for the command point or for the text, and can choose to play a green card either for both the points and the Hungarians get the text, or discard the card and trigger neither.
Yeah.
So the choice that the Soviet player faces on every single card is what help do I need and how much help can I afford to give the other team. And what does he use these command points on? Because this is not an area control game like Twilight Struggle.
No.
What they do is we have these event cards. Event cards that look like this. And event cards, I don't know, I hope you can see up here too.
Be here, but
They will be laid out like this. So the Soviet player gathers command points from the red and green cards and spends them on the gray cards from here to buy a card and put it on as an event to the board.
I'll put that there so it's probably in sight. That's not the right card to there.
It should be there, but
Okay.
we'll put it here so you see
Just
it.
in case it's not a shop.
And this, every event on the board, you can see it here, presents a set of icons. These are the resources that the Hungarians as a team have to gather to get rid of this event.
Yeah.
And the Hungarians have a deck of cards, a deck of beautifully illustrated cards with these icons on them. Medkit, firearms, the aforementioned Molotov cocktails,
Good old Molotovs.
food, and information, which I managed to not set aside. There's an information. And you collect these icons and you go on the board wherever the event is, and you can play the cards to take it off and get some benefit from it. That would be nice and probably on level of Pandemic, but we
Yeah.
wanted something more,
We need some more.
some more preparation, some more use of the theme.
Yeah.
So we took to the streets
Yes.
and we introduced the fighters. These are people either native to Budapest or coming from other places, for example from Poland, to help the
Yeah.
fight. And they have either icons on them or special abilities. And they are on the board inactive. And one of the actions you can do on the board is activate an inactive fighter, and from then on that fighter follows you. And if it has an icon, you can use that icon without spending any cards,
Which is handy.
which is where the build-up of the game is. Early game, you have lots of cards, but no fighters.
Yeah.
And the question is, how do you spend those cards to ensure that you get some more cards, but more importantly, you get a lot of fighters, because the fighters are which will win you the game.
Yeah. And what was clear when we played it, there's very little randomness to this.
The Hungarian side has the only randomness to the Hungarian side is which of the 11 are available immediately
Yeah.
and which of the 11 are available later.
And like Twilight Struggle and like some of those games, it's a game where you play it once, and after I'd finished playing it last night, I was going,
Oh, I should have done that.
yeah, if I'd known that if I do this and this and this and hold that card, then bang, this will happen.
Combo testing.
And it's one of those, it's rewards coming back. And to play as the Russian or the Hungarian resistance, it's totally different games as well.
Yes.
Completely different games.
It's so much the completely different games that we got a lot of feedback during playtesting saying,
Yeah.
"Ooh, we love Pandemic. This is just like Pandemic, maybe a bit more engaged."
Yeah.
But our play group has nobody who can handle a game complex like Twilight Struggle.
Yeah.
What can we do?
Play this.
We had not only play this, but for those people,
Yeah.
we designed a cooperative deck.
Yes.
The cooperative deck is a lot stronger than the Soviet player, but a lot dumber than even your average newly
Even.
Soviet player. So he shoots a lot, and if you walk into it, you're gonna have a bad time. But
yeah.
we have a tricky way of building the cards, so we know how many of what events will trigger,
Yeah.
but you as a player don't exactly know which one is coming now.
Yeah.
So there is randomness in it, but very controlled randomness, which means I normally play on the normal difficulty level. There's an easy and a hard for the
Yeah.
co-op. On normal, I usually barely win. And I've played this game
A lot of time.
times. So I imagine on hard difficulty, this is gonna give quite kick even to the most seasoned co-op players. And the other thing we quite like is that the play experience scales very well with number of revolutionaries in the game.
Yeah.
Even works with one revolutionary versus one Soviet for
Yeah.
a two-player game, or one revolutionary against the deck,
Yeah, so
making
solo
it
play is
a
capable.
very, very stable and very engaging solo game.
Yeah. No. Yeah, this is very cool. Well done, sir. It's a brilliant piece of thing. I love it because it's not too heavy in that Twilight Struggle, but I'm getting that sort of Twilight Struggle feel, and it's just got there's just so much cool stuff happening. There's just it all kind of just you know, it just works. It's a smooth piece of stuff. It's on Kickstarter now.
Days of Ire, Budapest 1956.
Yeah, and so really, yes, I can't strongly recommend enough. This is going to be something. This
Thank
is
you very
going
much.
to be something.
We're already funded, so have faith in us. Heading for our first stretch goal soon, so we have high hopes for this
Yeah,
project.
and in theory, this is going to launch at Essen. Is what we're looking at.
We are
possibly.
hoping at being at SM, but since this is our first actual production and it needs to get to SM from China, if it doesn't, we'll ship after SM.
Yeah.
I think our deadline on the Kickstarter is January, but we've just been nice to ourselves, and then we're hoping to over deliver.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I can't promise SM, but we'll try our best.
I'm in for this. I'm absolutely backing it. This is one of those games that if you don't back it or you're not in on it, it's going to blow up when it comes out. Because people are going to go, oh, and this is going to blow up, and then everyone's going to be like, how do I get hold of this? So this is my
May
tip.
the prophet speak from your mouth.
Yeah, I say this is my tip. Absolutely. Do this.
Thank you very
It's
much.
fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.